Good morning, Director Mechanic. Can you hear us?
Could you test that again?
Good morning, Director Mechanic. Can you hear us?
Yes,
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
It's 9:30.
Yes, sir. Everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Glenn, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Whenever you're ready, let me know.
Yep, going live. 3, 2.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I am City Council Member Louis Vieira, Chairman of the HART Board of Directors. Please silence all electronic devices for the duration of the meeting. Welcome to the February 5th, 2024 Board of Directors regular meeting, which is now called to order. The meeting format is hybrid with board members physically present at the HART Administrative Office at 1201 East 7th Avenue, Florida Conference Room, and participating via communication media technology. Please stand if you're able to do so and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chair Vieira,
Here.
Director Owen,
Here.
Director Williams,
Here.
Director Cameron Sapita,
Present. Here.
Director Hartfield,
Present.
Director Henderson,
Present.
Director King, Director Knight, Director Mechanic,
here.
Director Myers, Director Schisler,
Here.
and Director Wolstel. You do have a quorum, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. And for board members who are communicating via or virtually, if you wish to speak, just put up the little hand, whatever you call it, and I'll see. And if I miss you, my apologies. Next is public comment. There is written public comment at each director's station to be read. This statement will be included in the meeting minutes for approval at the next board meeting. In addition to that statement, we have people pre-registered to give public comment remotely. As a reminder, all public comments are limited to 3 minutes. The first individual is Tina Williams. Ms. Williams, you are recognized to present. Okay. Would appear Ms. Williams is not present. Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Williams, you may unmute your phone and speak.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Williams, we may have lost your volume.
Coming before the board to visit the right 32 to
Ms. Williams,
Ms. Williams, if I may, ma'am, we can't hear you, so what we're going to try to do is, we're going to go, if we can, to the next speaker, ma'am, and then have you come back in 3 minutes to hopefully clear up your line. So let's do that if we may. Okay, the second person is Alan Brewster. Mr. Brewster, you are recognized to be present. Or to present.
Alan Brewster. Good morning, board members. First of all, I want to start out thanking each and every board member for their support on my issue with the FMLA and the holiday pay. I was emailed Friday letting me know that that issue was taken care of. Once again, I want to thank each and every board member for your support, because without your support, I truly believe the issue would not have been resolved. And I just want to say that this whole situation has been demoralizing. To go to HR, to go to management and voice my concerns about the issue, and then there was like no communication or that the issue really didn't matter, it really said volumes. And the positive thing out of this is that the support from the board members. And I do want to thank Kelly White for coming to me personally and talking to me about the situation. And I just want to implore each and every one of you board members to just periodically show up at 21st Avenue and talk to the common people without management. There's still a stigma that if you speak out, some people believe they'll be retaliated against. You board members, each and every one of y'all has the authority and the power to take this transit agency to a whole nother level. Once again, I want to say thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, let's go back to our first speaker, Ms. Williams, if you are ready, ma'am, and hopefully your issues have resolved.
Yes, sorry about that. I apologize.
Good to have you, ma'am.
What I wanted to say, can you all hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
ma'am.
Yeah, I want to come back. I wanted to address the board. First of all, good morning to everyone. I apologize if my voice is a little raspy. I'm suffering from the flu, which is why I'm not physically there, but I still wanted to speak. I wanted to number one, thank the board, but I wanted to revisit the Route 32-36 connection. That is still a problem. It is actually even more of a problem since I have the speaking before the board. The Route 32 going to International Mall is still an issue. Some board members did reach out to me saying that they wanted to ride with me. That has still not happened. And I would also like to employ the board members, when you're making route changes, please ride the bus as if you had a disability. Please, from a perspective of someone who does have a hidden disability, I'm going to keep coming until we are heard. We are out here, and HART is not autism friendly. HART, Tampa is one of the first autism friendly cities, but our transportation system is not autism friendly. It is not blind friendly. It is not wheelchair friendly. And for schedulers to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter, we do matter. Without us, transportation would not exist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate you. Anyone else here for public comment today? Okay. Next agenda item is approval of the meeting minutes from the January 8th, 2024 Board of Directors regular meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
We have a motion, I believe, by Board Member Henderson, seconded by Board Member Schisler. Roll call, please.
Chair Viera?
Yes.
Director Owen?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Director Cameron Sapita?
Yes.
Director Hartfield?
Yes.
Director Henderson?
Yes.
Director King?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Mechanic?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Director Woolstel?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is the consent agenda. The HART Strategic Planning and External Relations Committee met on January 22nd, 2024, and recommended approval for action items 4A and 4B. The HART Finance and Audit Committee met on January 22nd, 2024, and recommended approval for items 4C through 4E. Are there any questions to staff about these items?
Yes,
Go ahead, sir.
I've requested that both of these be removed from consent. I don't know, Ms. Mandel, do we normally handle removals at the end of the meeting?
I'm sorry, typically they happen right during the consent agenda discussion. They don't get pushed back to another period of time. So if you want to go ahead and ask for those to be removed, we'll need an action to remove them from the consent, and then it'll be for the chair to decide if you want to take those up first or wait till we take action on the other consent items.
Okay. So do you have a discussion you want to have on some of these? Or?
I want them removed for a separate vote and discussion, yes.
Absolutely, yes, sir. I'm sorry, what, Councilwoman Henderson?
You said 4E?
4A and 4B.
Okay, so how about this? Let's go ahead and vote on other ones excluding 4A and 4B, the ones that you're speaking of, Commissioner, and then we can have a discussion on these issues at this time. So may I have a motion for
Move to approve.
4C through 4E?
Move to approve 4C through 4E consent agenda.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Schisler, seconded, I believe, first by Board Member Williams. Roll call, please.
Chair Viera,
Yes.
Director Owen,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Cameron Sapita,
Yes.
Director Hartfield,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director King,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director Mechanic,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Director Wolstel.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, Director or Board of Directors, members, and Commissioner Wassel, if you wish to speak on those two items, sir.
I'm sure, Ms. Mandel, we need to take them separately, right? So just
Why don't
4A?
you go ahead and, and take them separately, take 4A and have that discussion, and then a separate vote, and then 4B.
Okay. I want to understand why the ferry is on our TIP amendment to the TPO, the planning organization, which would insinuate that HART has a plan. And I want to know what that plan is for the ferry. Since, as we know, the Board of County Commissioners have ended that transaction.
Do we have any staff member who can speak to that?
I can speak to that. So as far as the HART grant, HART is the grant recipient, but this is a county project. The reason it's on the tip, because if it was gonna be, this doesn't sunshine or lapse until 2027. So if there was gonna be any movement on this grant, it would have to be approved by the TPO. Staff has had many conversations with the county, and the county has a list of what it needs to, because HART is strictly on the procurement of the vessel. So really, the ball is in the county's court on how they want to proceed. The last conversation I believe staff had is if they could change the requirements of procuring the vessels to dock, for existing dock modifications. And that we have reached out to the FDA, and we have not got an answer. But the specific reason it's on the tip is if there's going to be any movement, it would have to be on the tip or approved by the TPO going forward.
What's the harm of then just removing it from this item until a later date when we actually have a plan and we can make a TIP amendment request?
That could happen. It could be removed, and it could be an amendment down the line, or it's definitely voted on annually.
Okay, then I would motion to move this item forward with the removal of the ferry project.
Second.
And so, and thank you, we have a motion by Board Member Wassel, seconded by Board Member Owen. So a question, if we remove the ferry from this particular project, does that preclude, so for Mr. Drainville, when it comes to the ferry, is this a pass-through, we're not spending any funds on it? What is the relevancy then of this? Is it being kept in there in the event that the county acts on it in the future?
Exactly. So we, like I said, we have the grant recipient, and it is a pass-through, but it's the county project. So you're exactly right.
So it's just there in the event the county ever moves, and if the county doesn't move on it, then we spend no dollars on it?
Exactly.
Okay. Are there any questions? Yes, sir. Board Member Schisler.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Wostel. This item was brought up during the meeting, because I know I brought it up. If the county had already killed the idea, why is it there? And that was the explanation given by Mr. Drainville, was the same. And it seemed to be a reasonable approach. That's why it was left on there as a function of the motion approval, moving it forward to the board for final discussion.
Well,
So this was brought up by the committee, and the explanation, as Chair has just explained, seemed reasonable. That's why it was still there.
Well, this says with county match, and 3 of the county commissioners that already said no to the ferry project are sitting on this board right now. And actually, the 4th, who isn't here, also was a no vote on it. So I'm confused why HART would be putting forward an item insinuating that there's a county match. There's no possible way that optically this would be good when we just went through a process to procedurally end this request for proposal for any ferry project.
Anyone else? Any further?
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, Mr. Drain, but what would the pitfalls be by this motion going through? I mean, we could address this and.
So if the motion actually went through today with it on the tip list? Off to the, so there's really nothing, like I said, there is time to either amend the tip, or if there's any conversations on moving this forward in a later date, you have until 2027.
Okay.
Anyone else? So, and that was a good question by Board Member Owen. I was going to ask, if we remove it, what do we lose? Let me ask you, the flip side is, if we keep it, what do we lose or gain? It seems to be a formality.
That was a good question. So I would say we have nothing to lose. The only thing, when you being the grant recipient, it kind of it's a mark on us as an FDA recipient. FDA frowns on not, getting awarded grants and not going through with them. But that's really it. We're just a pass through for a county project.
And if I may, and by the way, any other board members have any questions, comments before I speak? Okay, yeah, my view on the ferry, especially after the loss of the sales tax money, is that it's not something I would really, unless if we get some like robust matching state or federal money that's gonna take care of virtually all of it, it's not a priority for us. My view is taking it off, though, would be a formality that would have to be addressed in the future if there is a change in circumstances. Again, I say that, though, having never really been a big, vigorous booster of the ferry, but I think, taking it off or keeping it on is a formality with little consequence or relevancy, either way, in my opinion, but, yeah. Any other comments before we move? Okay, roll call if we may.
Chair Vieira?
No.
Director Owen?
Yes.
Director Williams? Director Williams?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the motion?
Approval of consent agenda item 4A with the removal of the ferry from the TPO tip list.
Yes.
Director Cameron Sapita?
Yes.
Director Hartfield?
Yes.
Director Henderson?
No.
Director King?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Mechanic?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
No.
Director Wolstel?
Yes.
The yeas have it.
Okay, thank you, Madam. And Director Wosel, 4B, if you wish to speak to that, sir.
Yeah, I first want to know, why was this MOU not renewed in January of 2022? It says it in the item, but the reasoning of why it wasn't renewed in 2022 wasn't provided. And it also didn't provide a copy of the original one that was canceled in 2022, and if what we're offering today as a renewal was the original.
Any staff or board members who can answer that question?
My biggest concern, just so everyone understands about the item, is I'm 100% for everything that it's arguing for on here, that we should try and have a revenue collection system that is symbiotic with theirs, that we should have planning that is symbiotic with theirs, and especially in terms of the few routes that, what do we have, 2 that go across bridges now? We were 3, we're down to 2?
One route.
Oh, we're down to one. We're down to 1 route now, which even more articulates why it's a problem for me to have our lobbying efforts married together. We just received a report that I'm still waiting for clarification on that OPAGA study, why seemingly there were, in my opinion, forced, unsubstantiated conclusions that were drawn in there, which I intend to get to the bottom of, suggesting that we should somehow merge with PSTA, when they in their study, they didn't study any of the financials, the legalities, complications that might come from that. But then at the end of this very extensive study, there seemed to be a forced bullet point that says, oh, and yes, you should possibly merge with your adjacent transportation organization. What I want is us to focus on fixing HART and it being the best transportation locally with local taxed dollars that we have, locally taxed dollars. I don't want us to marry our lobbying efforts with the adjacent counties' lobbying efforts. I want our lobbyists to be hyper-focused on Hillsborough County's taxpayers' needs, nothing more, nothing less. So I want to understand if the original MOU that was canceled for some reason that wasn't provided, it says in here January of 2022, January the 12th of 2022, the memorandum of understanding between HART and PST for collaboration opportunities was terminated via a notice from HART. Do we know on that termination notice why we canceled?
Any staff member who can answer? And if there isn't, maybe we can discuss this at the end of the meeting where we can find someone who can.
That's fine.
Who can answer. Is there
I
anyone?
can table the motion to the end of the, table the item to the end of
I
the.
would say that I was part of the executive team, and that was done prior leadership, and I was never given a reason why. But we can provide the original, if requested to.
Yeah, I would like to see if what we're voting on is the same, or if there's things that were added in. And if they weren't, I would say, especially we've heard from city council board members on the TPO who have huge reservations about any mergers. In our experience, it's only been the Tampa City Council people on TPO that have had resistance to merging the MPOs, which I'm actually a fan of. I think that we should think regionally on the major intersection corridors that benefit all three of the counties. But as far as merging the transportation organization, I think that that's putting the cart way before the horse, and that I don't want to pre-marry our lobbying efforts. And I think that these are the type of behind-the-scenes things that can happen, where I just want a tight leash on our lobbyists, frankly, when they leave here and go to Tallahassee. I don't even know what our lobbying priorities are. Has that come before the board?
No, has not yet.
Yeah, so I want to know what we're, as an organization, going to Tallahassee and lobbying for. I heard Senator Collins is going to be graciously trying to advocate for money for the heavy maintenance facility that we seem to have a consensus on that we need. It's in deplorable, but I don't know how we even got to lobbying for those dollars, and I want to make sure that we tighten the loop on that. So if we can get why we canceled, whatever that termination notice was, and if they gave a reason to PSTA why we canceled it, and also a part of the original agreement, and I'm fine with tabling this until the end of the meeting.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And I was just gonna say, there's no deadlines for this. We could actually supply all the documents requested, and we could bring this to the next board meeting.
Would that satisfy you, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, so how about this? Two things I see here, unless if anybody else wishes to speak. Number one is, I think it would be wise, Board Member Walsall has brought up some very good points on this that I think should be discussed. The staff will probably need more time. And then number two is a motion that not to put words in your mouth, maybe you want to make on having our lobbyists brief us. We're going to, Board Member King and I are going to be, I believe, going to Tallahassee today, in fact, and with Mr. Drainville. And that would be good to have them brief us on some of those issues. You mentioned the maintenance facility that Senator Collins and State Representative Coster have worked on, among others, and it would be good to be briefed on that. So how about, if I may, have a motion from you, sir, to table that 4B until next month?
Yep. I move to table item 4B until the next planned meeting.
Second.
Point of order.
Yes, sir. Go ahead,
You
sir.
may want to make the motion to continue it, and so it becomes an agenda item for the next meeting. That's probably what, that way we agenda it and we have somebody here with HART that's
fine.
prepared to give us a report as a
I'll
board.
accept that friendly amendment.
Thank you. No one else speaking? Okay. Oh, yes, sir. Board Member Knight.
Yes, wouldn't that be back to the committee, then prepare whatever, then bring it to the board, instead of discussing it all at the board meeting? Shouldn't that be something that, no?
If I may.
Yes, sir. And then the board members just.
So Holland Knight has already been requested to come to committee. They'll be at the strategic planning to discuss everything that's been requested today. So we can ask them to come back at the board meeting and give that same presentation.
Board Member Schisler.
Yeah, I would say that the importance of the lobbying efforts needs to come before the board. both is fine, but, you know, the board needs to hear what's happening. Because once it comes through the committee, it hits the consent agenda, and the only way for us to hear for the full board is to pull it and go through the same exercise. So I would agree that, you know, to Commissioner, to Director Knight's point, yeah, bring it to the committee, but also they should come back and do it to the board also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir, go ahead, sir.
And a legislative agenda is what we're kind of talking about. That really needs to be done in October. You know, we're doing it at this point right now, whether in session is,
Well, I would say that we did have a strategic planning meeting, and we have a
Okay.
priorities list. There was past board members that sat on that. So we do have a priorities list,
Okay.
so.
yeah, I'm just thinking for next year, maybe we do something more formal and have it done in October. Just a
Yep.
suggestion. Yep, thanks.
Good point. Okay, no further comment. We have a motion by Board Member Wosel, I believe seconded by Board Member Schisler. Roll call, please.
Chair Vera?
Yes.
Director Owen?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Director Cameron Sapino?
Yes.
Director Hartfield?
Yes.
Director Henderson?
Yes.
Director King?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Mechanic?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Director Wolstel?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I believe for item number 5, I believe Ms. Angela Pay is going to be, or Ms., who's going to be handling item 5? Oh, there you go. There you are. Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, Board. Angela Pay, Deputy Attorney here at HART. Today, the Board will receive presentations from the top 2 firms who submitted their proposals for General Counsel Legal Services. This is a solicitation for General Counsel Services, requires the Board of Directors' participation and involvement per the HART Procurement Manual, Section 3-207.02. I would like to refer you to item 5A in the packet. HART Board Member Hartfield was a representative from the HART Board of Directors on the Evaluation Committee. Director Hartfield, did you have anything to add to the report in the packet?
Thank you. No, nothing at this time.
Thank you. Chair.
Oh, yes, ma'am. So do we do now the presentations by, okay, there you go. And
First presentation that we will have will be Gray Robertson.
okay. And if I may, I apologize. I didn't let me read this into the record. I apologize. At the conclusion of the technical evaluation, the ad hoc evaluation committee recommended a best and final offer be requested from the 2 firms that submitted the highest score technical proposals, Gary Robinson, PA, McFarland Ferguson, and McMullen, PA. The ad hoc committee also recommended that these 2 top-ranked firms be afforded the opportunity to present overviews of their proposals to the full Board of Directors meeting. Each firm has 15 minutes to present their proposals. The firms will be called to the podium in alphabetical order. They will present and answer any questions from board members. After all presentations are received, staff will review the pricing that was also included in Section 5A recommendation from the evaluation committee, and the board members then will discuss which firm would be the best value for HART. Are there any questions from HART board members before we hear from the first applicant, Mr. Smith? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Board. David Smith of Gray Robinson. I'm here to basically introduce the team and to answer any questions that may arise. I want you to know I am still involved in the representation of the board, although you don't see me personally as much. But I talk with Brenda and I talk with various staff people as issues arise, and also deal with outside counsel on some of the litigation. We have a long history with HART. We would like to continue that history, and we would like to provide you the information that we think will allow you to make a decision that hopefully will result in our retention as your general counsel. And Julia Mandel will start that off by giving you the presentation, and also with me today is Jan McLean. Thank you very much.
Good morning. If I could just find out how I can move this forward. Just hit the button. Very good, thank you. I've had the pleasure of sitting as your general counsel for the time that I have been with the law firm of Gray Robinson, certainly on the heels of the masterful David Smith, who has also served as your general counsel since 2011. As many of you know, and maybe some of you do not, Gray Robinson has a long history of representing governmental entities all over the state of Florida, and it's one of the reasons I chose to move to Gray Robinson after I left the Tampa City Attorney's Office after many years there. You have the presentation with you, so I won't go over all of it, but just wanted to make sure everybody understood that Gray Robinson's history of representing governmental entities, not just HART. We serve as the general counsel to the Tampa Sports Authority. We serve as special counsel to the Hillsborough County School District. We serve as the special counsel for the port, special counsel for the Aviation Authority, and we also continue to do representative work for the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County. And that's just in the Hillsborough County area alone. As we really do look at all of the items that we deal with in terms of our representation of governmental entities, we have to have an understanding that there is a political aspect and a legal aspect to everything we do. And although we stay out of the politics the best we can, we understand what governmental entities and what board members go through in dealing with their mission as they represent their constituents in their governmental boards. As I've said, I'm going to continue to serve as the team lead, and I currently serve as the Real Estate and Land Use Section Chair for Gray Robinson and have been in that position for several years. Within that area, also is inclusive of the local government services. Mr. Smith, who you've already heard from, will serve as the alternative team leader, but don't let that fool you. He knows more than I'm ever going to know and ever going to forget. So he's a valuable and an amazing resource for us to all have. And then Jan McLean is also a team member. Jan McLean served for many years at the City of Tampa Attorney's Office, representing the infrastructure areas, including transportation and the water, wastewater, and other infrastructure services with the City of Tampa Attorney's Office. And before that, served with a number of water management districts as well. As I've indicated, I have been doing this type of work really my entire career, which started at the Hillsborough County Attorney's Office, was in private practice for a period of time, then with the City of Tampa, and now I've been with Gray Robinson for over 6 years. And I do also represent some private clients, so I do deal with both sides of it. The majority of my practice is with governmental entities, as I've described. Gray Robinson as a whole represents governmental entities all over the state of Florida, including we do represent the LINKS, the Orange County Transit Service. We represent other services throughout the state of Florida, Orange County, City of Orlando. I mean, the list goes on and on. You have the list here, so I won't go through it, but we pride ourselves in our work with governmental entities. We also do no transit, and we've obviously been working with y'all for a very long time, but other aspects of our firm represents Port Tampa Bay, as we said, the Manatee County Aviation Authority, the Canaveral Port Authority, the Central Florida Transit Authority, the Aviation Authority, and other authorities throughout the state of Florida that relate directly to transit. I have been serving as your general counsel, as I said, for a period of time, as well as Mr. Smith, and have been working in this space for most of my career, as has Jan McLean and David Smith. As we have worked for you over the last many years, we've seen a lot of things occur. Some have been incredibly positive, some have been not as positive, but we have been striving and seeking to improve your processes, to improve your policies, and to continue to go through that process. I've made several presentations to you about changes to your policies, as has Mr. Smith. we continue to move forward with that. We also have dealt with some of the investigations that you've had to have, but also some of the positive things, helping you find some of the best folks to work in your agency. As things have changed over time, we have worked within your space for revenue generation, including Mr. Smith's active involvement in the litigation relating to the transit tax, as well as serving and assisting you with your questions as they come up today about revenue generation. We understand that revenue and streamlining your services and dealing with a lot of the challenges that you face, as everybody says, one of the most underfunded agencies in the state, if not the country, we understand those. We're here to assist you in those. Our role really is one to be your board counsel, because we do have very talented in-house staff. I know that there's going to be some discussion about some of your policy changes as it relates to what the Florida Department of Transportation has said. We will continue to move those, but it is our role to really serve as your board counsel. I've put forward some of the examples of the representations that we've had. We have restructured your general counsel position in previous times, and we will continue to look at that. We have ensured the integration of the Florida Bar Rules regulating attorneys, as well as making sure there is streamlined work between your in-house counsel and us serving as board counsel in that general counsel role. We, again, have worked with other agencies and used those best practices to bring forward to you in terms of looking at how you're running your organization and how you have your board, such as yourselves, serve really as the policy providers of this agency, and making sure there's a seamlessness between your policy decisions and what happens with your staff and how they implement your policies. We will continue to work on that, because that is something that, as we've gone through the last several years of some challenges, really have been highlighted as how we can have more efficiencies in your representation. We also do, I skipped past this, we also do provide training. I have actually done several training exercises with Sunshine Law and Public Records Law and your policies. I think you're probably due for another one coming up here pretty soon, so we'll be looking at that. The other things that we do work in is we do have litigation services. We don't do a lot of litigation for HART, but we do offer litigation services. You have some very, very good outside counsel that deal with your litigation issues, whether it's from employment or personal injury or other things that we interface with them on a regular basis. In addition, we have a lot of experience in procurement, although we're not your direct contact for procurement. We do have those services in-house and have a lot of understanding of how those issues work forward. I tried to go through this fast to leave time for questions, so I want to thank you again. Thank you for the years we've spent representing you, working with your staff, and we look forward for the opportunity to continue to serve you. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Mandel. We appreciate you. Any questions from board members? Yes, ma'am. A board member.
I have a question. How do you all determine the price that you all charge HART for your services? And do you ever, at any time, offer a refund because you did not have to complete the obligation to a certain extent where you're of the billable hours?
That's actually an excellent question, because how you identify the right amount of funding for the purposes of your services, recognizing that you're always giving a discount when you're looking at it from a governmental entity perspective. We certainly cannot charge a governmental entity what we might charge a private client. Again, one of the benefits of Gray Robinson is that's not an issue that they have with our representation, because that is the type of work we do. Now, the way this particular RFP was set forth, it was looking for a flat fee for monthly services. Not everyone does that. Some are hourly. So we really went back and kind of looked at, over the last several years, the amount of time that we put in on the retainer services and tried to come up with a number that made sense. Not every month you're going to have a lot of work, but some months you have a lot of work. And the majority of time, candidly, we end up providing more services than we are getting paid for, but that's okay, because that's what we do, because I really take this position, and Mr. Smith taught me to take this position, and Ms. McLean also takes this position. Our job is to be here for you when you need us, not for us to worry about every billable hour. So That the price that we provided for this is a little higher than it was the last couple of years. But in terms of the services we've provided, we've probably provided way more in terms of benefit to you than we have for revenue. But that's still, I think, a very fair price as it relates to this particular service. I also looked at it, and Mr. Smith and I talked a lot about this in terms of what our cost is for other similar types of representation, such as, like I said, I serve as the general counsel for the Tampa Sports Authority, and we do that on a flat fee basis as well.
Thank you very much. Board Member Hartfield and Board Member Williams.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. When there is billable hours that are over and beyond what may have been covered in terms of revenue or income, but do they show up as in-kind, and do you offer that as in-kind back to the organization, back to HART? In a documented format, do you offer in-kind in a documented format?
Typically, if we've taken work that's been outside of the retainer, meaning the monthly retainer, because the monthly retainer is whatever amount you work, you get paid no matter what. So the hourly rates as it relates to your monthly retainer don't really, you don't really think about it in those terms. But if there are items that are outside of the retainer, they have to be authorized, and then we provide that billing for those services. It has not been a very significant amount of work that we've taken outside the retainer. There have been some, such as litigation services and some other matters, but for example, when we've dealt with some of the internal issues that we were faced with, we did not take those items outside the retainer. So they were just part of your monthly retainer services. So now if we do get to a place where we're looking at this and we're saying, okay, you know what, you're really not necessarily utilizing as much of the service as we're paying you for, there's always an opportunity to have those conversations. It's the good and the bad side of doing this as a monthly retainer, is you have to make sure you're matching up what you're providing versus what you're paying. And again, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. I mean, I have to be candid about that. It has more often than not been more than less.
Thank you, sir. Board Member Williams, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Julia, thank you so much for the presentation. We've definitely done a lot of work with Ray Robinson and with the number of things that have come up that have been somewhat uncomfortable. And as I think through that and understand some of the processes that we put in place, the one thing that I'm looking for is a proactive findings and a mitigation plan up front. And I'm curious about being more forward and more intentional about looking at things ahead of time and then making sure that we have plans in place so that we don't encounter or incur some of the things we've had in the past. And I do welcome and I appreciate the fact that we have plans in place now. But as we look out 6 months from now, what should we consider? What are the things we should be looking at, and where do we see blind spots? And so in this plan, I was wondering, is there something in this plan that accounts for those things, considering the situations we've encountered in the past?
And thank you, Ms. Williams. Something that I have mentioned on several occasions, and it's just been more of a time crunch issue with other things going on, is really doing a deep dive into your policies and procedures. I can identify and have had conversations with you about several items that I think will help you in the long run as you better delineate between what your role is as a board, what your role is for your administration, how those two interface, and how through your policies that those things occur. And we have actually been starting that work and really starting to deep dive into those policies, because once you put them in the policies, it's the roadmap for folks as they move forward. And one of the things that I think we noted during some of the more challenging times was that your policies, either one, don't say what you want them to say, or two, have not been dealt with the way that they have been intended. And clarifying them, maybe streaming them down a little bit wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but we have really been already started that work and intend to bring that forward to you and have been wanting to bring that forward to you. It's just been a time crunch thing. That is one way to make sure that as you're proceeding forward, you're hitting those pitfalls, because then you're able to say, okay, here's what you're supposed to be doing, and it's not happening that way. One or two things needs to happen. One, you change the policy, or two, someone's got to account for the idea that that policy hasn't been complied with. And that's, in going through the last couple of years, would probably be the thing that I would say is the item that needs to be dealt with as soon as possible. And we have been working through some of the policies. I don't know that we specifically incorporated in the plan. That's really more just me as we look for those overt ways to help you and your organization moving forward is something I would tell you that I think needs to occur.
Thank you. Board Member Nguyen. And before, I wanted to make sure the 15 minutes, that doesn't include questions, I would assume, right? It does, okay, so we are at 15 minutes, okay. Now, can we, would it violate any process of equity or transparency or anything to have our Commissioner Owen? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. I'll say about both these firms, I've gone up against both of them. They're very worthy opponents and do a great job. And I think a lot of the board members' questions as to our legal arrangement, the scope of representation is clearly spelled out, and that's going to take into account a monthly retainer fee that we're paying every month. I think it's important for board members to know that that's definitely the way to go as far as lawyers go, because if you get into that situation and there's a ton of work, 1 or 2 months, it can really blow your legal fees through the roof. So any time that I have done with my personal clients a monthly fee versus just a big trust account and I bill off it, everyone wants that monthly retainer. They know what their fees are, they know what their costs are, but I think the point that you're trying to make, if there's anything that falls outside of that scope of representation, you will probably create a new either fee agreement with HART, or you will be contracting outside to a third-party attorney if it's dealing with a specific type of law that may be particular to another firm that you recommend. Is that safe to say?
I would say that, yes, if there's an item that you want us to undertake that's outside the scope, that would create another matter. There is authority in the policy for us to have that other matter created. We would not have the authority to go outside to find another attorney. That has to go through your procurement process. But you do have very good lawyers to handle some of the more specified things, and we work with them all the time as well.
Right.
And I will say, you might not, we sit here for your board meetings, but there's a lot of stuff that happens outside the board meetings that we get very involved with. But I would agree with you, the monthly retainer does make it easier for y'all to budget.
Yep, okay, that's all I had.
Yes, sir, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, great. Thank you, ma'am. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. Okay, next
Mr.
is...
Chair, this is Commissioner Myers. I've
I'm
joined the
sorry,
meeting.
Commissioner Myers. Did you have a question, ma'am?
No. Just letting you,
Okay.
I'm on the meeting.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So just for the
Thank
record, Commissioner, Hillsborough County Commissioner Gwen Myers is here. Next is McFarland, Ferguson, and McMullen. And obviously, if there are a couple more minutes necessary, we're more than happy to give that to you, just like Gray Robinson. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Vieira and members of the board. I very much appreciate the opportunity to come before the board here and make this presentation, complementing the written presentation, the submission that we made for the services here. Want to just go over a broad overview of our firm. With me here today is Jim Craig, who would be part of the team. Also is Zoila Lahara, who works with me on a daily basis, both of them. McFarland Ferguson. McFarland Ferguson, Hugh McFarland formed McFarland Ferguson in 1884. We are the oldest law firm in Tampa Bay. We could say we were the oldest law firm in the state of Florida, except a firm in Pensacola beat us by a year, and they formed in 1883. Hugh McFarland became a central player in the development of Tampa as a shipping area, and as cigars came in, all kinds of the growth of Tampa, McFarland Ferguson was at its core. McFarland Ferguson is a full-service law firm serving all kinds of clients, both governmental and private, throughout the state. And since 1884, we have assisted all kinds of public and private entities with their legal needs. Now, the correspondence that we got asked us to, during this presentation, talk about our firm's commitment to the past priorities of HART and also to the future priorities. I'd like to talk about Hugh McFarland for a minute. I had the benefit of practicing with Andrew McFarland, his grandson, for many, many years. Andrew just retired just 2 years ago. But I got to hear some really incredible stories about Mr. McFarland, the original Hugh McFarland. And one of those, which I think evidences McFarland's commitment to some of the same missions that HART has. You know, HART's mission is to take people places that enhance their lives. And I would submit that McFarland Ferguson has been integral in the city of Tampa, in Hillsborough County, in enhancing people's lives. And the one story that I got from Andrew at the very beginning really touched me. In 1919, this was 23 years before Rosa Parks, Tampa had Hattie White. And Hattie White got on the streetcar. She went into her designated spot at the back of the streetcar where the people of her color had to sit. And she sat down. And at one of the stops, an individual, a white man, came on the bus. The streetcar was full. He went up to Miss White and demanded that she give up her seat. And she wouldn't. And so eventually an altercation occurred, and the gentleman removed her physically from her seat, threw her to the ground, was choking her with one hand, and was beating her with the other hand. Well, she had a switchblade or a knife in her pocket, and she was able to get that out, and she slashed his face. This resulted, of course, in her being arrested. The gentleman was set free, and she was arrested. Mr. McFarland was so incensed by this that he went down to the jail the very next morning after reading the article in the Tampa Tribune, and went down and offered to represent her. Well, he represented her in the criminal case. He was successful in that he got her convicted of a lesser charge, but that wasn't enough. And Mr. McFarland took the case all the way to the Supreme Court, where her conviction was exonerated. That's the commitment that I would submit McFarland still has to the community today, and that is, as your mission is, to enhance people's lives. I have the benefit, actually, today of Hugh McFarland's desk is my desk. Andrew McFarland has made clear it's on loan, it's not mine, but I get to think about that every day that I go to work. So McFarland Ferguson today. We continue to maintain the founding principles of serving our community through innovative legal representation. For 138 years, we have committed to providing justice and professionalism. I serve as outside general counsel to the Hillsborough County School District and have for the last 7 or 8 years. In addition, we work with the City of Tampa, the clerk's office here. We work with the port and also the Expressway Authority. I have, in the last 10 to 15 years, really shifted my practice from representing private entities to really focusing on governmental entities with Mr. Craig and Zoila O'Hara's work, and frankly, thoroughly enjoy it. But that being said, McFarland Ferguson is a full-service law firm providing all kinds of areas of practice. Our firm does everything except securities litigation and criminal law. All other areas we are able to assist. Myself, I've been practicing 23 years. As I was preparing this weekend, I realized that next month is my 20th anniversary with McFarland Ferguson. And that's what's critical, I think, with McFarland Ferguson. You'll find that most of the lawyers there have only worked for McFarland Ferguson. They've spent their entire practice there. My practice has really focused on governmental work, government in the sunshine, public records laws, procurement. I deal with those issues on a daily basis with the governmental, principally with the school district, which I thoroughly enjoy working with, but all kinds of governmental entities. Mr. Craig has 37 years of experience, mainly in the labor and employment sector. He is board certified in labor and employment work. He serves on the certification committee for that and currently is its chair. Mr. Craig's current and prior governmental list include the City of Tampa, the Sheriff's Office of Martin County, the Orange County, Pasco County, Manatee County, Hillsborough County School Board, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Pinellas County, Lee County, to name just a couple of the governmental organizations that he represents. So why choose MFM? As I've said, we have a history of 138 years. I would submit that we've done something correct through that. As I've mentioned, most of our lawyers spend their entire career with our firm. And what I enjoy so much with our firm, given the diversity of areas of practice, is I can collaborate with. I have somebody I can go to on virtually any issue that may arise, in addition to the expertise of Mr. Craig and the help that Ms. Lahara brings to us. So, as I said, the correspondence that I got inviting me here said we wanted to talk about our past work with HART and future endeavors. And I would submit, I was just at the operations center of HART a couple of months ago with our superintendent, helping the superintendent. It allowed me to talk with him as we went there and back. He was there to film a PSA with your director. We have 90,000 students on the road every day, every school day. We have 700 to 800 buses on the road. We are one of the largest transportation of students in the state. I think there's some synergy there. I think that there's something that this organization and the school board, if we work together, could really, really change this community and change the way we transport students and individuals throughout the county. And so I would submit that that is a future issue that I could be instrumental in bringing these two organizations together to help the community. We have, McFarland Ferguson would love to be a part. We as a community, we all know we're exploding. We're growing, we're going in a positive direction, and McFarland Ferguson would love to be a part of that, and this organization specifically. So I appreciate your time and look forward to working with you, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
We appreciate your presentation, sir. Any questions from board members?
Yes, good morning.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of questions. Good morning. Thank you for the history lesson regarding Hattie Wright. Just out of curiosity, in RFP presentations, is that the go-to history lesson that you all like to share when you're seeking new business?
No, it's not. It was something that, because of its connection with transportation, and frankly, I just thoroughly enjoyed talking to Mr. McFarland about that case. It came to me as an organizational entity here to talk about it.
Well, that's really good, especially considering that it's Black History Month. I really appreciate hearing about that.
Yes, ma'am.
You did get my attention when you talked about the opportunities that possibly exist between HART and Hillsborough County Public Schools. I actually agree with you on that. I think there's an opportunity, considering that students in New York City ride the public transportation to get to school. But how much of that would be a legal matter for you all in terms of your presentation to us and everything else that's required of our legal services?
Obviously, it would not be the principal driving force of the representation. You have all kinds of other issues that I would be addressing. I certainly could, I think, act as a bridge to the organizations. Legally, though, I do know from the district's perspective, the safety of the students and the legal issues of transporting those students is certainly an issue that will need to be addressed.
Okay, well, and the last question for me is, especially considering that you're competing with Gray Robinson, who is our current counsel, can you identify any areas that they've addressed in their presentation that would be a reason why we should choose you over them?
It's a great question. I have the utmost respect for Mr. Smith, for Ms. Mandel. I consider them friends. They are the cream of the crop. They are some of the best attorneys in town. That being said, we see a lot of newer faces here on the HART Board, and I would submit that it may be time for a change. Like I said, I have the utmost respect for their legal acumen and the firm itself, but believe that, we are certainly qualified to do the work, and would love to do that at your will.
Okay. Thank you. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, ma'am. Board
Thank you,
Member
Chair.
Knight.
Good afternoon, and again, good morning. Thanks for the presentation. Not only the history and, dealing with the Hillsborough County city order entities that go around and trying to come together, those are some good things. Well, another thing I'd like to ask on is how you feel in your company, how do you represent as far as diversity and inclusion? How do you feel on that in the makeup? Because a lot of the bus system, a lot of the patrons, things that happen or have to represent or however things come up. So how do you feel about diversity and inclusion in your firm?
You can never have enough is what I guess I would say is, for me personally, diversity is important to me, and I have, as a director of the firm, worked to try to have a more diverse workplace and where we are. And like I said, it's never enough, and I think we could always work harder and do harder and do that.
Thank you, sir. Board Member Wosel, then Board Member King. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, and just so you know, Commissioner Myers has her hand.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, sir.
I don't know if she was
Then
before me
thank
or
you.
not, but I have two questions for you. First is, are you familiar with the challenges that HART just went through?
Yes, sir.
What would you have done as sitting counsel differently to, from my point of view, the general counsel is there to help the board and the CEO not only not step on landmines, but remove them from being there in general. How would you have helped us differently in the past to avoid the complications that we just went through?
Here's what I would say to that.
Jeffrey, before you answer, could you elaborate on what the issue is that you posed that HART just went through?
Well, and I guess I was getting to that. I can't possibly, from reading the St. Pete Times or the Tampa Bay Times and watching the news, fully appreciate the underlying issues that were here. And so, I know we've been through several directors over the last 3 years, some issues with the two directors ago and the last director. So I can't articulate the specific problems because I can't possibly know all the facts. I can't possibly know exactly what was happening. And so to answer your question, it's very difficult and I think, unfair to your current counsel for me to stand here and second guess them and stand here and say what I would have done or I would not have done. But what I can commit to you though is, if selected, I would meet with each of the board members individually and talk about what your issues are, what your concerns are, what you'd like to see different, what you liked, and work with each board member on a going forward basis. I know there were issues. I think it isn't productive to talk about the past and second guess them, but I am committing to you going forward that I would be your counsel, addressing your concerns and what you need and want going forward.
Well, I'm not asking you to second guess anyone's decision. The hearings were public. We had a very robust presentations during public hearings about all of the well-defined issues that went on. Those were procedurally, I guess what I was asking is what ideas do you think you're bringing to the table that are different that might have helped guide the board to avoid some of those hardships? I'm not asking you to second guess anybody else's work.
Well, and I think Ms. Mandel has addressed that. I think your policies and the policies that are in place now, I think you need to have a hard look at that. And working as a board individually with the board members and as the board, I think that they could be improved. And that would be my number one thing, is really taking a hard look at your policy manual and your policies in place to see if they are structured in such a way that to benefit the board, and how that they can be changed so that the board and the organization as a whole can operate more efficiently, more openly, and more smoothly.
Okay, the second question is, our general counsel also sits as our parliamentarian. Do you have a board-certified parliamentarian on your staff? Would it be the person sitting here? The reason that's important to me is because understanding Robert's rules is so crucial to preventing disruptions during the meeting and moving the flow of the meeting forward. So would the sitting council be a certified parliamentarian?
The sitting council would be me, and I am not a certified parliamentarian, but I have extensive experience with Robert's rules from, frankly, high school and through college. So I can't tell you that I'm board certified, but I can tell you that I know Robert's rules.
Okay.
And I know how to run a meeting.
All right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir. Board Member King, then Board Member Myers. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your presentation. I just have one quick question. In addition to the clients that you've already enumerated that you represent in a similar capacity, how many total clients do you currently represent in a legal counsel capacity? Public entities?
Public entities, me personally.
Well, your firm? Ballpark?
Dozens.
Okay.
Me personally, probably 6 or 7 local Hillsborough-centric firms. And then the firm as a whole, both in Pinellas County and in Hillsborough County, dozens to 30, 40 probably on a rotating basis.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Board Member Myers, and my apologies for missing you, ma'am. Go ahead.
No worry, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Just have a couple of questions, and thank you for your presentation. You stated that you're a full-service firm. If we had HART had another issue regarding a director being removed, will your firm have to go out and hire someone else as legal counsel to come in to take care of that portion of the labor side, or would your firm be able to take care of that?
I think as we spoke about in the prior presentation, the scope of work is detailed in this agreement. Other work can be accomplished as a matter. For any kind of labor and employment issues, Mr. Craig is board certified in labor and employment and has spent 37 of the last of his career doing that. So that labor and employment issues are something that our firm can handle and could handle if need be.
Okay. And my last question, what makes you so unique and different that you want to be the legal counsel for HART?
Well, I will tell you that
not the Black History, I got that. But my other question on the Black History, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but on the Black History question, do you share that every time you make a presentation, or just because we're in Black History Month?
Well, it was really the transportation aspect is really what brought it to mind. The story that I got from Mr. McFarland and its synergy, I guess, with HART and its mission, and frankly, that it just happened to be in February was just an added bonus.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Board Member Mechanic. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. I couldn't find the hand waving button, so
I probably would have seen it, so that's all right.
Question for the gentleman. In looking at your background, I see that litigation is sort of at the top of the list. And I'm just curious whether, as someone who sits with the board, he or she assumes a more counselor role as opposed to an adversarial role as a litigator. How would you characterize your experience, and how do you think you would perform in a more counselor role than a litigator?
That's a very, very fair question, Director. In looking at my resume of the 23 years of experience, I do have more litigation experience. But I would say that I can use that. But in the last 10 to 12 years, I really have more honed in on being less in the courtroom, Ms. Lahara and some other people in my firm have taken a more of an active role in the actual litigation and handling the litigation matters, where I've taken a step back and working with governmental entities on the advising of them for that. And so that's, for example, what I've done for what I've done for the school district and the city of Tampa and the clerk's office. Less adversarial, less litigation. Frankly, I do zero litigation for the school district. So I think I possess the skills to be able to serve HART and this organization as it's needed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay. And I wanted to commend you, sir, for your I thought you did a great presentation, and you took a lot of questions, and it's not easy being up there. I will give you one question, if I may. Something that Board Member Wosel kind of talked about, which is the conflict that we've had over the last few years. And I'm not going to ask you to name cases, but have you had experience in your capacity representing government entities where you're dealing with that high-profile political acute conflict that is in the paper every day, and you're having to be the general counsel and give opinions that are going to potentially, shift the narrative on the front page of the Tampa Bay Times and whatnot? Is that something you've had experience with?
The way I would address that is certainly in the last 8 years, the school district has been in the newspaper a couple of times. I have been through the transition of 2 superintendents, and throughout the last 9 years, if the district was on the newspaper, I was in the superintendent's office for hours and hours, working with the superintendent and working with them, advising them on how to move forward. I think it's probably good that my name wasn't in the paper, but I was right next to the superintendent and have been for 8 years.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And I would say that the high volume of questions you got from board members, I think, speaks to the quality of your presentation. So thank you, sir.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Let me see here. Okay, this concludes the presentations from both law firms. Next, we will invite Ms. Kathy Zikifus. I hope I pronounced that correct. If I didn't, I apologize. Director of Procurements and Contracts. You are recognized to review the pricing.
Good morning, Board Chair, Board members, Mr. Drainville. I want to give you an overview of the pricing by referencing you back to item 5A in your packet. As a best value procurement, monthly pricing was part of the proposal submission, but it wasn't given any part of the scoring criteria. The best and final price is represented as a BAFO, best and final offer, priced on the recommendation from the ad hoc committee. Gray Robinson, PA, submitted the best and final monthly fee of $9,000 for the first 3-year base and $9,000 for both option year 1 and option year 2 for not to exceed amount of $540,000 for the 5-year term. McFarland, Ferguson, and McMullen, PA, submitted the best and final monthly fee of $9,000 for a 3-year base, $9,500 per month for option year 1, and $10,000 per month for option year 2, for not to exceed amount of $558,000 for the 5-year term. As a best value procurement, trade-off decisions as to which proposal presents the best overall value can be made.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? And I do have a question, actually, and maybe I've never billed this way. And maybe I'm, after 20 years of practicing law, I've gotten this term wrong, but are both firms under a flat fee, or is it a retainer where we give them a certain amount, and if they bill over that amount, then they bill us over that? Is it a flat fee?
It is a monthly flat fee.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, good, because I've always just been a straight bill ya lawyer, so there you go. No flat fees. Any other questions?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And as far as scope of representation, is there anything you see in there that one is offering more options that would not go to a different billing platform than the other?
Nothing jumped out to me.
Because that's
Director
really important.
Hatfield, as part of the ad hoc committee, he was more integral in scouring through the proposals.
Yeah, so we spent an inordinate amount of time scouring through. I did not see anything that would allude to, jumping to a different platform.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Director King, go ahead, sir.
Just one question. In addition to Gray Robinson, or Robinson Gray and McFarland, how many applicants were received?
Yeah, we actually got three proposals, and I can say for in the last, our current contract, we received 3 proposals. But we did cast a wide net to try and seek competition, and I do have that here for the total firms that we reached out to was 185. There was 11 DBE firms, 6 SBE firms, and we direct marketed the solicitation opportunity to 117 firms. We had 15 downloads.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I want to make sure, Commissioner Myers, is your hand up, ma'am?
No, I can't get it down for some
Okay,
reason.
that's fine. I didn't want to miss you again. Board Member Schisler, then Board Member Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kathy, regarding the pricing, was this strictly for general counsel to the board, the pricing structure accordingly set up that way? The reason the purpose of my question is, there was a question raised a few minutes ago regarding ancillary questions, labor law, something like that. Would we be billed, or would this $9,000 a month for the first 3 years, would that cover any extraneous billings or any other extraneous expenses due to a specific labor law issue? Or would there be an add-on on top of that?
Yeah, no, I think generally it covers. Is there anything, I mean, I know that we did have one case in the past few years that was billed separately.
Right. Just for the board's clarification, typically, the flat fee does cover general counsel services. However, if there's any type of special investigation that needs to occur, whether to any staff member necessarily, what will be required is in-house counsel will have to provide authorization for board counsel as well as outside counsel to engage in those particular activities. Then they will bill us outside their flat rate at that time. In-house counsel then reviews the invoices and the rates at which they're being billed, as well as the work that's been done, to make sure that it's accurate and reasonable under the circumstances. And then we will submit those invoices for payment at that time. Again, that's only if it's outside the scope of general counsel services.
Okay, so anything extra, so in other words, anything extra would be added on?
Correct.
Additional, okay, thank you.
With authorization.
Assuming the proper authorization reviewed by your staff. No, I
Yes,
agree with
sir.
that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Board Member Williams.
Okay, thank you. How much did we pay last year? Is this, the $9,000 was based last year?
Last year was 8,000.
Okay, and the 540, that includes all, the base plus all of the other
Correct.
actions that took place?
Oh, that's the current price, 540,000.
Okay, so this excludes any additional incidences that required additional support? Yes. Okay. Okay, got it. Okay, so it's 8 last year. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Board Member Wilson and Board Member King.
All that we're agreeing to, I just want to be fair to the 2 candidates. All that we're approving is that they are both coming in equally at $324,000 guaranteed for the first 3 years. Well, not guaranteed, I'm sure there's a way for us to change. The other options are where the disparities come from, right? So they're both the same, though. For the contract we're approving for 36 months, they're both coming in at the same price, so $324,000.
That's correct,
Okay.
but in order to exercise the option years that are available in the contract, it has to be part of consideration for the contract award.
I understand, it's just that the total column, I understand, is the total all-in cost if we did that, but the real subtotal that we're approving today is 324 grand, and then we could move on to different council. Okay, thank you yeah, because I understand that if we did the options, McFarland is 18,000 more, but they both are coming in at the equal wholesale value of 9 grand a month. I gotcha.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yes, sir. Board Member King, then Board Member Mechanic. Go ahead, sir.
I did think of one other thing I wanted to ask you. Out of all the applicants that you solicited, what can you attribute for the lack of response from the other candidates?
You know, I don't have that here. We just sort of compared it to what the response has been historically as to why we had no more competition than that.
So this is fairly normal then?
It has been, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just out of
Board Member Henderson, we were going to first have Board Member Mechanic, then you, then Board Member Knight. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Board
just
Member Mechanic.
Thank you,
Oh,
Chair.
no, ma'am,
Oh.
Board Member Mechanic.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. Board Member Mechanic, then Board Member Henderson, then Board Member Knight.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to ask, I'm looking at the chart that's up on the overhead, and I'm not understanding the three categories, Section 2, Section 3, and Section 4. Section 2 and 3 seem almost as if they're describing the same attributes. But I would just like, if we could, to hear what is the distinction between Section 2, Section 3, and Section 4 that created the point values for each of the firms.
Okay, so Section 2, that's the qualification of the firm and the team. So the ad hoc committee looked at what the proposal offered as far as the firm and the team and evaluated appropriately. Section 3 was qualifications of the staff, so they looked at the staff that would be providing the service to the board and HART CEO, and that was worth 40 points as well. Those were both equal in points.
How is qualification of staff different than qualification of team in the previous section?
This is Director Hartfield. So based on the technical guidelines that was provided in the RFP, the qualifications of the firm, think of it in terms of a firm been in existence for 5 years or a firm been in existence for 50 years in their depth of experience as it relates to the firm as a whole. Section 3, the qualifications of the individual staff, speaks to their ability in areas of specialty that would be competencies or add value to our organization. Hopefully that helps.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Mechanic. Board Member Henderson, then Board Member Knight.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good morning. Just out of curiosity, as a procurement officer, what is the cost to HART when you cast a wide net, to seek out this RFP? Did it cost us anything in terms of dollars to do that?
Yeah, no, it does not. When every solicitation, we post it on our website, and then we have an e-procurement that we posted on, and we also posted on Demand Star.
Okay.
So it's just putting it out there that all can hopefully download and.
And was the 15 downloads all separate firms, 15 firms?
Yes.
At least took a look and considered us?
Right.
And what was the timeline of the RFP? How long did a law firm have to complete the application from start to finish?
Yeah. The solicitation opened on 11/17 and it closed on January 4th.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Board Member Knight.
I decline.
Oh, okay, nothing further? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you. And I will say, actually, so for the record, Gray Robinson, their flat fee had been $8,000 a month, and now it's going to $9,000 a month proposed.
That's correct.
And it was $8,000 for 3 years.
It was 8,000 for 5 years.
Wow, okay. So for the record, and this is true for both law firms, just a lot of law firm rates have gone up because the cost of living in Florida has gone up. So just, you know, and this applies to both law firms, I'd say.
Lawyers are no different than grocery stores.
And I know, right? Very funny. Okay, no further questions. Okay, I now open discussion for board members on the resolution R2024-02-06 to authorize the chief executive officer to award a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options for general counsel legal services. So this is a time, board members, for questions and for discussion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to just acknowledge staff and their ability to help us work through this RFP and come up with totally objective measures to present to the board. Mr. Drainville, your staff did a tremendous job.
Yes, sir. Well said, Board Member Hartfield. Thank you very much for that, sir. I see Board Member Myers. If your hand is up, ma'am.
Yeah, my hand was up I had a question on the procurement side, on the point system. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Ms. Zikafus, if you don't mind, ma'am. Thank you.
Good morning and thank you.
Good morning.
I noticed good morning, McFarland, Ferguson, and McMullen, they received their 14.33 on the section 4. What were you looking at? Because I can barely read this. It's so small on me. Ingrid Robinson, 17. Thank you so much for enlarging that. What was the difference in that scoring section that you were looking at?
Commissioner
Anyone
Myers.
on the committee? Thank you, Director Hartfield.
I think Director,
Go ahead.
and if I may, Board Member Myers, I think Director Hartfield wishes to speak to answer. Go ahead, sir.
Commissioner Myers, Director Hartfield. So on the work plan, again, totally objective with the reviewers, but what we look for was the ability for the firm to articulate how they plan to engage with HART and carry out that plan throughout the engagement. So it was totally objective. Each reviewer had to define within themselves how that implementation, maybe even a period of discovery would look, and ultimately what that work plan would do in terms of adding value and support for the organization. So,
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you again. Board members, any discussion? Yes, sir.
I'll kick us off. First, I wanted to thank both of the applicants. You heard that we threw a wide net, and we only got 3. Did we hear the reason why the third one wasn't heard at all? Did they just score so low, or was it they were just so far out of the?
Yeah, they did not hit the competitive range.
Okay.
And they was so low that they didn't stand reason to being awarded.
I'll thank both firms for applying. I did want to point out that during my questioning, Miss Mandel got rolled under this proverbial bus at the same time that I did. She had nothing to do, done a good job in the time that she's been here. So I just want to know if, since there doesn't seem to be a lot of excitement, do we have to pick a candidate today? And if we don't, Mr. Drainsville, what would happen?
So if the board could not come to a conclusion today, we'd have to ask for a resolution to amend or to extend the existing contract. whatever time that would be, and then that's how we would have to move forward.
Okay. That's all I was really going to ask. I'm not going to say much more. This is difficult. Both of the candidates are sitting right in the same room. It's the same old thing where we have to talk about people like they're not there, even though they're sitting right in front of us. So, but I'll just sit back and listen.
Thank you. Board Member Williams, Board Member Knight.
I think, have we extended this contract before?
I believe we have, yes, we have extended. I don't, Ms. Sikovus,
How many times?
I'm thinking it's 3 times. I think the last time was the 3rd time that we've had to extend it.
And we've extended it because, remind me why we extended it?
There was different things. It wasn't on the procurement side. There was things that the current council was going to do. There was going to be a workshop, so we kept pushing it out to allow time for that workshop to be completed. Investigation? Oh, during the investigation time too, yes, that was because it was not advantageous to switch gears potentially during the investigation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Board Member Knight.
Thank you, and I also agree with Director Warsaw that we should, delay this, because I'd like to ask some other questions. I'd like to take and get some more information. It's a big decision. And I just like to see, because some things that went on in the past, I'd like to know, even with some of the things that happened at the Hillsborough County School Board, the superintendent, how it was handled, the amount of time, the different things like that. I think that this is an opportunity for, we got information. Let's look at it and be realistic and look at everything. I don't want to just look at the bottom line, the dollar, but quality. I want to make sure that we'll be able to be listened to, as well as convey information to us and change different things. How are they both willing on some things that I like and dislike? So I would move to not make a decision to vote today on which one, but take this and just go a little bit longer.
And thank you, and.
Point of order?
Yes, sir. And I was going to, if I may, you can go, point of order. Yeah, go ahead.
When does the current contract expire?
The 29th of this month.
Okay.
So let me ask if I may, because y'all are talking about, before I recognize Board Member Knight, an extension, and then Board Member Henderson, are we talking about, are y'all looking at another month to take it up next month, or a year, or?
I was just asking a question.
Okay.
Because I didn't see anybody jumping to the microphone. I wanted to make sure that all of the board members knew if there was other options or if our hands were really tied. I would say that if we've cast that wide of a net, and if we're going to say that we're going to delay, what are we going to do different to attract more candidates? It's a unique thing. You're setting an attorney up here in a public forum. You've seen what has gone on the last year. Many might not want to be exposed to this type of environment, frankly. So I'm not really suggesting that we do anything more than the other. If we, really we're left at, if we feel like we're not going to get any more candidates, then the board is tasked with deciding if we feel like we appreciate everything that Gray Robinson has done, but we feel like a change needs to be done, then great. But also at the same time, we can't do it just for that reason if we don't all feel like McFarland, Ferguson, and McMullen is going to give us adequate representation. I'm not really going to advocate for one more than the other. I would tell you that the responses I received from my questions, I was disappointed in the responses I received. No disrespect to anyone still in the room, and that's what I would advocate towards. So,
Thank you, sir. And next, Board Member King, and then Board Member Henderson. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Not to take away anything from Gray Robinson, and acknowledging that there's something to be said for maintaining a certain level of continuity, particularly in the area of our legal counsel. I would think this is analogous to picking a CPA firm to be your external auditor. And after a certain number of years, you might want to consider whether there would be a benefit in changing, even though you have a entirely adequate relationship with the current people providing that particular service, or in this case, the legal counsel. So maybe this is a good juncture to at least consider that possibility. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Board Member Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. As a new member of the board, I look at the practicality of the situation. I believe that in looking at procurement, our staff and the committee that work together to bring us to today, we are capable of making a decision today. This is the Super Bowl, and it is time to make a decision. A delay would, I think, jeopardize our legal services, considering that the contract is going to be ending soon. So it really boils down to us as a board making a decision in front of them. Everybody can't get a trophy. Somebody has to win. And so the point system is here, everything is done. And I just feel in terms of, presentations, the advantage that our current council has is that they have been doing the work for us. Their competitor presented a more passionate presentation, storytelling, about their firm and where they stand and the work that they've done. And we just need to make a decision. So I don't know if that was a formal motion that Mr. Knight made, but I would like to move that we make a decision, and I can actually do that in the form, as it relates to this particular board, since I sit on a few. Is it moving the resolution with the specific name of the firm?
Yes, ma'am.
Is how it's going to be done?
Yes, ma'am. If you see on the bottom of page 4, in red, there is, I inquire, is there a motion to approve items resolution number R2024-02-06, authorizing the chief executive officer to award a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options to whoever you would like to make your motion, and then we'll have Board Member Schisler speak.
Okay, I would like to move everything that you said, so I don't have to repeat it, moving with General Counsel Legal Services to continue with Gray Robinson as our legal counsel.
Second.
Point of order.
Yes, sir. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I think, because I think Director Knight made a motion, this would have to be a substitute motion, correct?
Okay.
But
So
he
just
didn't
to
get a
be-
second,
I don't know.
or was it a motion?
And if I may, let me inquire to Director Knight, was that a motion that you were making, or a suggestion?
Suggestion, and it was along with Director Walsham.
Okay.
But we do have this month, like a workshop, and you're gonna have another meeting that, if it didn't today, that it would be before, around 15th or 17th, something like that? 19th? So if it's what you wanna do, vote today, vote your heart.
So to be clear, you're not making a substitute motion, and you didn't originally make a motion, is that correct?
Right.
I was talking on it, I said that I agree, but.
Yes, sir.
And I did get a second.
I'll make the motion.
And if I may, Board Member Mechanic, let me first recognize, are you finished, Board Member Owen?
Yeah, well.
On the point of order, just
Yeah,
making
my
sure.
point of order is over, yep.
Okay, thank you, sir. Board Member Schisler, then Board Member Mechanic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I concur. I've seconded the motion. We have a lot of things that have gone on in the last 5 years that Gray Robinson has stepped up with. Did they hit it out of the park every time? No. But we have relied upon them. They've come through for us in the past, and I see no reason for us not to continue with them going into the future. I do want to thank both groups for the presentations. They were very good, passionate, and I think either one of us would serve us well. But let's keep in mind, we have some significant issues coming down the pike that we need to know that our general counsel knows where the bodies are buried. And we have, particularly with the reports from FDOT and so forth, ad hoc revenue issues that we're working on, and I think that we're better served by maintaining the continuity of Gray Robinson going into the future. We had to hold it for 3 years. We have options for 2. If things change in the interim, then during that time frame, then we can make a change. But I'm comfortable with the service that they provided and look forward to working with them in the future. And that's all.
Thank you, sir. Board Member Mechanic, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Schlissler pretty much articulated what I was going to say. I would just like to point out that as an attorney, I feel very qualified and comfortable going forward today making a decision. I'm very familiar with both law firms. Both law firms are excellent law firms, and we would certainly be in good stead with either of these law firms. The only distinction that I would draw is that Gray Robinson has been doing this for a number of years. They have the hands-on direct experience with our agency, and that is worth a whole lot. It's not just a question of being smart or being a good lawyer. That experience carries with it the ability to more efficiently solve problems, get work done in a quicker fashion than if you have to learn something new for the first time. So I will be supporting the motion on the floor wholeheartedly.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead and then put me on.
I'll just reiterate that I know we've done business with Gray Robinson, and we have a great relationship with them, and they have been responsive. My concern is centered around making sure there's proactive actions taking place and there's a mitigation plan. We can't wait until we get there to start putting a plan together. And my expectation would be if that were the case and we're running smoothly, but we've had some significant issues, and I would hope that we would have all learned from them and that we have plans in place to make sure that we don't run into these things before, and that would be my expectation from someone we've been working with for a long time.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate a lot of what Director Mechanic said, and as a practicing lawyer too as well. Like I said earlier, I've gone up against both these firms. They're extremely competent firms, but I think there is some real value of sticking with Gray in this situation because they've been in the foxhole with us on a lot of these issues. And as the gentleman that did a great presentation for McFarland stated, you know, there's a lot of information they've just gotten from the newspaper. They haven't been involved and intertwined with us as a board or this organization, and I don't really see anything in the past that would necessarily say we need to fire, in essence, our current lawyers. So I am going to be supporting the motion, but I do want to say that I am really thankful for the presentation and for McFarland's efforts in trying to obtain us as a client, but at this time, I'm going to be supporting Gray. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, were you going to say something, sir? Okay, no, sorry, I thought you were going. I'll give my thoughts. I mean, I'm obviously ready to vote on this today. You know, the flat fee arrangement is always very interesting. Just as an attorney, I think my first year I did some flat fee work, but I never have before. I would suspect that maybe with some firms, that's maybe why they don't bid on something like this is because of the flat fee. And I say that because that speaks really well of these two firms that are like amazing firms. I mean, if this was the 1989 Cubs, we have Ryan Sandberg and Mark Grace here, right? So that's, they're two really, really wonderful firms. Gray Robinson, we've had the pleasure of working with them for a number of years. And McFarland Ferguson, obviously a wonderful firm. Zoila Lahara was mentioned, who's a friend, and I think the world of her, and I've told her I hope she runs for office one day. That's how highly I think of her. She's a wonderful person, a wonderful professional, and a wonderful attorney. For me, I don't want to call it, it's not an abuse of discretion standard. It's more of, it may have been Commissioner Owen who talked about, are we going to terminate this firm, right? And maybe I wouldn't go as high as to call it the power of incumbency, but that's kind of the standard that I look at it. And does it disadvantage, by in all practicality, a firm looking to come in and replace Gray Robinson? Sure it does. I'll be the first to admit it. But again, a wonderful presentation by McFarland Ferguson. When I saw that they were coming up before us, I went, man, this is going to be really interesting. Because again, 2 A-plus law firms that are very, in Tampa, there's firms, Holland and Knight, Carlton Fields, used to be Fowler White, now Banker Lopez, folks like McFarland Ferguson, Gray Robinson, just A-plus firms that when you're a part of them, it means something. It's like a big deal. So these are 2 wonderful firms. One thing I would like to see, and I plan on voting for Gray Robinson. One thing I would like to see is that work on the policies and procedures, worked on in the next year, like really, and that's going to take. And by the way, I'm preaching to myself in that regard. So if we do, keep Gray Robinson, that is something that I think should go forward. But so I just wanted to give my thoughts in that regard. Okay. Any further discussion before we call the vote? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. So I didn't have anything on the floor, like I say, with that, so there's no need to follow on.
Yes, sir. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes, so again, I believe also, like has been mentioned here many times, that both presentations were awesome, both great firms. However, Gray Robinson seems to have much more experience with the government and public sector, more than McFarland, and also an understanding of what the issues have been with HART. McFarland just didn't seem to have that understanding of the background, and maybe a lot of more research could have been done to kind of dig in more to understanding the HART issues. But again, like Mr. King mentioned, a fresh look into things would be awesome as well, but thinking of everything together, I just really believe that Gray Robinson's probably going to be a little better.
Thank you, ma'am.
Match. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll call the vote if I may. We have a motion on the floor by Board Member Henderson, seconded by Board Member Schisler.
Chair Viera?
Yes.
Director Owen?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Yes.
Director Cameron Cepeda?
Yes.
Director Hartfield?
Yes.
Director Henderson?
Yes.
Director King?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director Mechanic?
Yes.
Director Myers?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Director Wolstel?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, congratulations to Gray Robinson, and a real salute to our friends at McFarland Ferguson, who, again, it's, like I said, it's Mickey Mantle versus Roger Maris, if you ask me. Okay, next we move on to our Chief Executive Officer's report. CEO Drainville, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning again, board members. Starting off with the upcoming training and network opportunities for HART board members, the Transit Industry offers a variety for professional development and networking opportunities for the transit board members. The transit board members can learn from the national and international industry leaders and each other from about the most recent trends and developments, best practices, and exchange their experiences and challenges the local agencies are facing and managing today. Staff will be sharing a list of opportunities for the upcoming months that the HART board members could benefit from attending. The travel and training expenses for the HART board members are budgeted in the FY 2024 operating budget. Just want to add from the previous conversation that we do have a scheduled presentation from the HART Federal State Legislative Support Teams at the upcoming February Strategic Planning and External Relations Committee meeting. All board members are invited to and welcome to attend the meeting. It will be streamlined on our YouTube channel and can be viewed later as well. This presentation will be also brought to the board meeting in March. The legislative team will provide an update on the most recent developments in DC and Tallahassee and pending and upcoming grant opportunities. We will also discuss and finalize HART's legislative priorities and the projects that HART could submit for the community project funding and congressionally directed spending opportunities in FY25. Regarding this special workshop for February 19th at 1 p.m., the board members will receive an overview of the study from the FDOT representatives, Baker Consulting. The workshop will be facilitated by the Florida Public Transportation Association Executive Director Lisa McCoe, who has an exclusive insight in the composition and structure of the state transit properties, and a member of the HART Legislative Support Team, Jeff Booth. Mr. Booth is a nationally recognized transit professional with 40 years of experience. He combines deep knowledge of the public transit industry, decades shaping federal laws, regulations, and guidance that govern public transit, and counseling on federal compliance issues. Regarding the finance, the FY 2024 budget book has been finalized and has been submitted to the Government Finances Officers Association. A copy of the FY 24 budget book has been distributed to each of the board members this morning. On quarterly FTA reports, as a Federal Transit Administrator grant recipient, HART is required to submit federal financial reports and milestone progress reports to the FTA quarterly. These reports are due no later than 30 days after the quarter ends. For the quarter ended December 31st, 2023, all required reports were submitted to the FTA by January 29th, 2024. The milestone progress reports is the primary written communication between HART and the FTA. It highlights the progress and activities of the project and potential delays or problem areas. The federal financial report provides a current, complete, and accurate financial picture of the award. Currently, HART has 18 open federal grants. Moving on to NTD annual report, a requirement established by the FTA is that all transit systems are to complete the National Transit Database report annually. On January 29, 2024, the 2023 National Transit Database annual report for HART was completed 2 days before the deadline of January 31st. HART's reporting process consists of completing 39 forms annually that are categorized by assets, service, financials, resources, and basic information. Specific data is provided on each of the categories forms, which are preset by NTD. HART's 2023 reporting process improved by 17% compared to reporting year 2022. The CEO certification was approved by the CEO, verifying the inputted information and statistic. On January 12, 2024, HART received a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022. This is an award from the Government Finance Officers Association. This is the 12th year that the authority has received this prestigious award. In order to be awarded a Certificate of Achievement, HART had to publish an easily readable and efficiently organized annual comprehensive financial report that satisfied both generally accepted accounting principles and applicable legal requirements. I'm proud to announce Kurt Michkowski, HART's Creative Service Manager, recently won 3 American Graphic Design Awards. These pieces were selected from 10,000 entries nationwide. This is the 15th consecutive year that we brought home this honor. Congratulations, Kurt.
Awesome.
And the categories were vehicle graphics for the African Americans who transform transportation bus wrap, category of branding for the HART for All logo, and the category of annual report, the streetcar assessment brochure. The same Kurt Michkowski designed the collateral for this year's Black History Month celebration. The bus is staged today outside the boardroom and may be seen on your way out of the boardroom today. Then on Wednesday, January 24th, HART Board Chair Vieira, Director of Planning Justin Willis, and a representative from the McDonald Training Center, and I visited the site discussed during public comment. To date, HART's customer service received no comments from customers expressing concerns about this location. Staff provided data that showed that at the top in the impacted direction, on an average day, 1.1% of the daily boardings occurred and 2.8% of the passengers got off at that location. On-time performance has increased 6% on the Route 32 since the route adjustment was made, an improvement for all passengers and operators of the service and 1,400 customers on both routes. This change also benefited the customers riding past the International Mall, which totals 9% of all daily riders. The HART team has begun a dialogue with the property owner, the Aviation Authority, to address the path between the two stops, and will further evaluate impacts and options for service enhancements. I will provide an update as more progress is made on this service in the West Shore District. You will note that staff introduced slight modification to section 11 in the board packet, informational reports, to include not only monthly departmental updates, but also the performance scorecard, fiscal year 2024 quarter, and the most recent update on the heavy maintenance facility project. And then over the past week, HART's facilities maintenance team has been working on repairs and upgrades to the lighting at the Marion Transit Center. While in progress, staff put measures in place to instruct our security contractor, American Guide Services, to have the MTC offices staged at the poorly lit west part of the platform. I also instructed the overnight mobile patrol to cover the overnight gap in security when HART stops service. Safety will make sure that the AGS officers do have flashlights. And this concludes my report.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. For the chair's report, just very briefly, we will be going to Tallahassee to meet with our elected officials there. I believe Board Member King will be coming as well, and to our lawyers, we will, of course, be observing the Sunshine Law, so no need to worry there. And we'll have, and I'll obviously will brief board members on the next month's meeting on what happened, et cetera. And I was also planning on having a meeting with HART workers as well to talk to them about what's happening in Tallahassee. And we'll give you all the date whenever that happens so that folks can be free to come if they'd like. And I guess that's it. Happy Black History Month and a happy President's Day, because I think it's February. It's what,
19th.
Lincoln's birthday and Washington's birthday, what, 12th and 22nd, if memory serves me right. Okay, next is the General Counsel's report.
Thank you. And first, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very much for your faith in Gray Robinson. I must say that Mr. Gibson is a friend. I have known him for years. I've worked with him for years. And candidly, you really wouldn't have gone wrong either way because he is such a wonderful lawyer. But we do feel very good. Gray Robinson does continue our representation of HART and our dedication to representing governmental entities. It remains a big part of our core and our value. As it relates to the policies, we have actually started working on changes relating to our policies from previous conversations that we've had. One of the things that we were waiting on is to finalize some revisions to the general counsel policy, which was being handled by the outside counsel. So my recommendation is going to be, now that we're past this point, is we go ahead and schedule a workshop on that in the next few months to bring that forward. And I think it is also in line with the Department of Transportation's report and the conversations we were having with them. So we're now in a place where some of those synergies can come together, and it goes back into the idea that we want to make sure our policies provide what it is we expect from the purposes of policy setting from the board, and also what the role of the administration is clearly, so that way if things kind of go off the rails, you're able to identify where they've gone off the rails, and you're also able to ensure that everybody knows who's on first. And I think that's been a priority for me for some time, and now is the right time to go ahead and get that moving forward. I will work with staff on getting a workshop scheduled on your calendar and making sure that we have that conversation and move that forward. As speaking of policies, the final thing I just wanted to point out is, over the last couple of years when we were going through COVID, there were some changes made to your CMT, your communication and policy as it relates to attending virtually versus attending in purpose. Obviously, there was periods of time where we did this all virtually, and then there were periods of times when we've had a lot of leeway set for that. The policy does provide that unless we're in an emergency situation. You are intended to be here no more than most of the meetings, and there usually, if you have 2 meetings that you miss, unless there's a reason, that is something that is outside the scope of your policy. Everybody has been coming. I just wanted to point that out and make sure that everybody understands it now that we're past that point. State law does require us to have an in-person quorum to take action for both your committees and for this board, but I just wanted to be the no-fun lawyer that reminds you of those types of things. So I don't have anything else. If you have any questions for me, please let me know, and I look forward to working with you over the next few years.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate you. Any questions? Okay. Oh, yes,
I
ma'am.
was just gonna, the number of people we have on our committees, if we could take a look at, we have vacancies there, and sometimes we can't make quorum
Okay.
as well, so, thanks.
So we'll get together on that. In the next week or so, we'll talk about that.
Yes, and that is part of policy changes that can be made, but also does provide opportunities to streamline some of those.
Thank you. Yeah, and that is, and we will look at that, because that's important. If people come in person and then you can't vote on anything, that's, and that's very well taken. Okay, if no questions for Ms. Mandel, we'll move forward for HART Board Committee reports. They're included in your packet under Section 9. Reports from HART Board representatives are included in 10. Information reports are included in Section 11. These reports include a review of the fiscal year 2024 Quarter 1 results of HART's performance goals, which will be shared with the board on a quarterly basis. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We received a written public comment. Could we get a 30-second or 30 words or less? What this is all about?
So it's my understanding, though, I know there was back in October, there was a request from the FTA on specifically information currently on industry practices, reducing the risk of fatigue. As of for now, the due date was, I believe, the last day of the year, and I haven't heard anything else. So nothing really has come of that in any form of mandatory document or anything like that. So I'm still waiting for the FTA to make a ruling on what that could be on operators.
So at this point, it's a moot point.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
This says it needs to be read into the public comment.
Oh, we don't read written public comment anymore into the record, correct?
No, there was it was an unwritten policy to do so, but about a year ago, there was a decision by the board not to read the comments into the record, but just to distribute them.
Thank you. Any other new business? Okay, so there being no business, this concludes the regular meeting for today. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.